Well, welcome to lesson 3, the third week of the course. Most of this week's lesson, the majority of it, is going to be on backing papers, the type with repeated patterns. But there's one thing I want to deal with before then, and that's transparent backing. The easiest way to do repeated patterns is using an image with a transparent background, but obviously not all images have that. We do give away on Craftfil PNGs which support transparent backings, and you can find these on other sites as well, but you don't always have the luxury of a transparent back. So let's open an image straight away. Now obviously this image doesn't have a transparent background, but lucky for us it's a nice solid colour. So all I need to do is nip across to the toolbar. You can see already I've got the magic wand here selected. Tolerance I'm going to chuck up a bit, 53. Obviously I can alter, using version 4 I can alter that as I go along if I wish. And I'm going to make sure that's on add, because I know there's a couple of different parts in this image which I want to select. Okay, back to the image, and that's the majority of it selected. I can see this bit in the stump hasn't been, so I'll click there and add that, and same with the little bit between the legs there. I could have put it on global, but I like a little bit more control when I'm doing these, so I've done it individually. Now I guessed at 53. I'm just going to zoom in. Yeah, there's the odd bit of very dark green left there. Take that. I don't think I'll get that without. Yeah, it's taken the whole image now, so I'll take it down again. I don't think I'll get that without the black. And we're on the whole image again. There, so I'll zoom out. That's probably as close as I'm going to get it without starting to go into the image itself. So now all I have to do is hit delete on my keyboard, and there, the background's gone. If there are some rough bits left, maybe just there, back to the toolbar again, the eraser rubber, depending which country you live in, certainly larger than that, that will do. And I'm just going to take off some of the worst of the green around. And there we've got an image with a transparent background. If I want to save that, I can either save it in Paint.net's own file format, .pdn, get that right, or I can save it as a file called a PNG, which also supports transparent backgrounds. Other types of file images, JPEGs, probably the most common one we use, does not support transparent backgrounds. It will change it normally into your background colour. So if you want to save it, Paint.net's own file format, or PNG, the type of files we give away on Craftfil. Well, that was quite an easy image to do. Let's have a very quick look at something slightly more complicated. Now I'll do this one as I talk with the magic wand. I just want to show you sometimes you have to try a workaround or two. Take the tolerance down. Yeah. You have to have a workaround or two because the image is too complicated to do just as we're doing it now. And the complicated bit, it'll vary image to image, but the complicated bit on this image is this rigging here. I've done images like this before. Absolutely no point in trying to delete around them. It's too close a colour. So what I do is I'm going to make a new layer. And now I'm going to take my colour picker, go back to the original layer and pick a colour, not the darkest but not the lightest either. On the rigging I'm going to take that colour there. Come out just a tad. Now I'm going to go to my new layer, the line tool. Don't know whether I'm going to try it at 1. And remember, these lines are going on the new layer, not on the actual image itself. I won't do them all, and they are a little bit dark maybe at the moment, but I can lighten those in a minute. You can just see I'll put in those lines. Oh, I say I won't bother doing the other ones. Back to my other image, magic wand again, and start deleting. And obviously you can see those lines are now there. If I wanted to, and I probably would, I could use the layer properties just to fade those out a little bit, as they might be a bit strong. I say, so you might have to use little workarounds like that to make an image suitable. I won't finish this image off, but now we'll move on and we're going to actually use the first image we did to start showing you how to make backing papers. Now, before we move on and have a look at backing papers, there's a plugin, well there's two plugins this week I need you to install. The first one is this, Fill from File and Fill from Clipboard. This is the link for people using version 3.5, and I will give the link, but it's on here as well. People using version 4 will download a pack of plugins, and it's a nice pack, and there are a couple of others on there we will use, so don't worry about that. Details are both on the website with the video and in the PDF as well. If you're still not sure how to install plugins, please do relook at last week's video and last week's PDF, and if you still have problems, please get in touch with me and I will help you through it. So we're going to use this Fill from File. Okay, we'll go back to our Paint.net program, and I've still got the image open which we created earlier. Now I'm going to do a landscape paper, just because I'm choosing to do landscape, no particular reason. You could do it. I'm doing a 4 in size. Again, you choose your own size, and the first thing I'm going to do is add another layer to that. So I've now got a blank layer on top. You can see it's got the crosshatch on there. Now this image is about 17, it should tell me exactly, 1753 pixels across. If I go back to my original image, you can see that's just over 1000 pixels across. So this isn't even going to fit on that sheet twice. Now, although I will be able to resize this later, I'd be shrinking it too much and I'd be losing the quality of the image. So I'm going to shrink this image down now to make it a more reasonable size for using for flood filling. You'll get to know, but you shouldn't use too big an image if you're going to flood fill it a lot across your sheet. So I will show you how this works. First of all though, I'm going to resize this, and I'm just going to do it by a percentage, and I think I'll take it down, let's try 30%. shrunk it down quite well. It's now 300 across. We'll try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. First thing I want to do is copy that. So we're up to Edit, Select All. That selects the whole image. And then Edit, Copy. So it's now like in the memory of Paint.net. It's storing that in the memory. So I can go back to my A4 sheet, and remember I'm on a blank second layer here. That's quite important. I'll show you why in a minute. Effects, Fill, and there are two there, Fill from Clipboard, Fill from File. We've just put it in the clipboard in the memory, so we're going to use from Clipboard. And there, you can see it has immediately filled the sheet. I will zoom in a little bit because I will zoom in a lot because I just want to show you the controls on here. Now actually I won't zoom in a lot because if I keep it in the right place you'll be able to see what I'm doing as I do it. So I'll just zoom in a little bit. Firstly, you can see you can alter where it is on the page. So I'm going, and now you can alter the zoom. A word of warning: the zoom seems to work the opposite way to what you would think. Moving right actually shrinks it. Now you'll see why I didn't want to shrink it too much in this program. In fact, that already the image does, the little images don't look brilliant. So if I did want it that small, which I don't, I would go back and shrink my main image a bit more. But I think I'll have it around that size. I'm going to move it slightly so that top doesn't have, there we go, and I'm going to move it so the top left hand side starts with a full image. There we go. Now I could mess around with that some more to get rid of this. There we go. And I have to move him back up again. So basically I've got full images on there with no part images, which you don't have to do, but I quite like that effect. So very quickly, why did I do that on a separate layer? I'll click OK on there because I'm happy with it. You'll remember this image was transparent. If I just untick the background layer for a second, you can see it's still transparent. So on the tool, on the layers window, I shall click on the background layer. So although we can see the top layer, we're now actually working on the one underneath. Go to my gradient tool and pick a couple of colours. I suppose we ought to have greens really, shouldn't we? So have a dark green and a light green. I have realised in Paint 3.5 you don't get as many gradient options, I'm afraid, as you do in 4. You still got a gradient, you can still use it, but the options aren't quite as varied. Right, so I'm on the background layer. Let's just put it on. I hope you notice when using the gradient tool you've got these two little circles, and those are what you drag around. Now I'm going to put that on repeat. It's on no repeat at the moment. That's actually not a bad look. Maybe that's better. Goes along. The gradient goes along with the bat. Again, you can play. You can get a nice look. I will show you one more trick which I tend to do. If I want to give this sheet away, obviously I want to save it as a JPEG probably. That's all the images on our site are JPEGs. So if I want to give this image away, I would go to File, Save As. I've no idea where I'll be here. I'm in my templates. Choose JPEG. Rename it because I don't want to overwrite my existing file. Cricut example. Now it'll give you an option here. This decreases the size of the file, but in doing so you lose quality. If I were to take it right down, I hope you can see there the quality shot. I tend to just to prune it off the top, so you can see that's 1.6 megabytes. If I just take it down by 5%, it's almost half the size. Just gets rid of information it doesn't need it. Click OK, and it's going to tell me that it needs to flatten it, which is fine. It needs to do that. JPEGs only handle one layer, so I'll say flatten, and there you are. It's saved my JPEG. But what I can do now is edit, undo. It brings the layers back. I'm still clicked on the background layer, so now I've got a chance. Edit, select all, delete. There goes the background layer. Now I've got a chance to have another go and perhaps put a different coloured background on there. Yeah, I absolutely don't like that. I hope you're better at picking colours than I am. Oh, that's not too bad. There we go. We'll have a mess around with that. And again, I can save that. It'll flatten it. I undo it. And I can go on like that again and again and again. Okay, that is a really simple way to do a flood fill pattern backing paper. You will notice that they're all in rows, and that's not how I tend to do mine. It's a bit regimented, etc. So in the next section, or the next subsection, I'll show you how to make that a little less straight lined. Right, we'll move straight on, and we've got another plugin for you to install, and that's this Seamless Texture Maker Effect plugin, and there's the download there. Install it as you do all the other plugins. If you can't remember, look at last week's video. I know this is a bit of flapping around, but you only have to install the plugins once, and eventually you'll have a nice collection of plugins and you'll be able to do everything you need. So if you've installed that, I shall go back. Before I do anything, I'm going to delete just the top, or the information on the top layer there. So edit, select all, delete, and just leave the background for now. And I'm going to go back to my original image here. Now I'm going to make it a bit bigger again, so I'm going to undo the resize. So it's back to its original size, and I will resize it again, but this time I'm only going to take it down to 50%. Again, you'll work out how big approximately you want your images, but this is, I think, approximately the right size. Edit, select all again, and on the toolbar move selected pixels. Now I shall hold down shift, and I'm going to make the image smaller but keep the actual overall dimensions the same. So hold shift, and then you can see the image is getting smaller. It will become more obvious in a minute, but the more space you have around the outside, this blank space around here, the further apart your repeated pattern will be. The less space you have, the closer your repeated pattern will be. Right, I shall deselect that, go to Effects, and I now need to find the seamless texture maker. It's there under Distort. Right, I shall zoom in a little bit to that. Now, I tend to try, you need to play with these settings again, but to start with, a good try is normal cut and blend, lighten. Both picked on that, no picked on that, and include transparent pixels. You must include transparent pixels if you're using an image with a transparent background. And I'll say, just move that out of the way so I can see what it's done. There we go. You can see the other settings do various other things, which is very good for making patterns, but not so good with an image. Actually, you know, I might try that, because we've got one facing one way and the other facing the other way. So you can see it's now a tiled pattern, or it will be. I'll click OK. It does its business, and then I'm basically repeating what I did last time. Edit, select all, so the whole image is selected. Edit, copy, so it goes to the clipboard into its memory. Now yet again I can flick back to my other image, make sure I'm on layer 2, the blank upper layer, and now Effects again, and I want that seamless, I want that fill from clipboard again. And you can see this time not in such regimented order. Again, I can play with this. That's about right. I shall say OK. I'm going to go to the background. I am going to change it again because I did like those greens we had before. Just clear the background first with a select all and a delete. Back to my gradient tool. Oh. I think I prefer something like that. A little bit busy, let's make it less busy. And let's move the whole thing, which you do with this cross. And there we go. Again, I can save that, undo it again, try a different background, and keep on repeating that. But this does make some remarkably nice repeated pattern backing papers. Don't have to use A4, you can use any size you like. If you're not sure what size you're going to want in the future, I suggest you do make A4 or even bigger, and you can resize it smaller later if you wanted like a 5x5 paper or 7x7. So if you're just saving them for future use, save them as bigger and you can always shrink them down. So that's two types of backing paper. We've got the one in regimented columns, we've got this one with the repeated pattern. Now we're going to have a look. You don't always have ones with transparent backgrounds, so we'll have a look at how you deal with them. Going to start off quick, apology. I did say install 2 plugins. We're going to now install a third one, and later we may even install a fourth. So don't worry, these will all be set out exactly on the page with the video and in the PDF, including which version of each plugin to download if you're using version 4 of Paint.net, and which version to install if you're using 3.5. That will all be clearly there, so don't worry. You may want to install them all at once rather than fluffing about, doing a bit, installing one, doing a bit more and installing one. Quicker to install them all at the same time when you've got the effects folder open. Right, let me close these down. I'm going to show you a different way of doing a backing paper. This sounds a little bit complicated, but don't fret too much. First plugin you'll need is Ed Harvey's Effects version 3.5. Don't worry, I've checked the one we need. It does work in version 4. This is where you download the zip folder, and that will give you the effect we need for the technique we're about to do. So let's get rid of that. Assume you've downloaded it and installed it. I'm going back to an image here you will have seen before. First thing I'm going to say is I'm not going to get rid of the background. I probably could with a bit of work, but I won't get rid of the background in this one to show you how to do an image which still has a background. The first thing I'm going to do is cut it down in size, because obviously the person is my main point of interest. Using the rectangular selection tool there, and then the move selection. I want it so the focus of my paper, the focus of the image is in this, roughly in the center. It doesn't have to be exactly, but roughly in the center, and that's as near as I think we're going to get it. So now I will hit crop to selection, and there's the image we've got. That's fine. This is now all going to seem a bit strange. Stick with me and you'll see why I'm doing what I'm doing and what the outcome is. So we'll immediately go to Effects, and one we've just installed, which is this one here, Vignette. Now if you hover over, you see this says Vignette by Ed Harvey. Some of you have done the Bolt Baits plugin pack, may have this Vignette Plus there. Some may already have this in the program, but it is this one I want, the one by Ed Harvey. Just come off that a second, and I forgot to do the strange thing, which is go to Adjustments, Invert Colours. This is going to look weird. There we go. I've made a negative. Come obvious in a second. So back to where I was. Photo, Vignette by Ed Harvey. And there it is. And you'll see what it does. It puts a black outline around the image. Now you can alter how small or big that is. You can alter the density, so it's not too dense, but I whack that right up to the top. You can alter the roll off, which is the difference between how much it fades at the edges. Now I do want it to fade at the edge a fair bit, but I also want the radius to be a bit bigger. I'm afraid this is another one of those things you're going to have to play with and get used to. I'll make the roll off a bit bigger there. Sorry, while I just mess around here. You can change the shape, but I don't want to. I want it round. Okay, I'm going to say OK on that, and we'll give it a try. And now I'm going back to Adjustments, and I'm going to invert the colours again, because that's what I wanted with this fading effect towards the edges. Now we're going to go through what we did in the last one. So I believe Distort there and Seamless Tile Maker. Now I have practiced, so I'm on normal, cut, blend, darken there. Light seemed far too light. Even average didn't seem very good, so I've gone darken. You can try each of them, it doesn't matter. I haven't gone any flip. I could do. I could not. Oh, that's a good question. No or yes. Horizontal I don't think looks very good because you've got one upside down, and same with both, but vertical, yeah, you could get away with that. No need to click include transparent pixels in this because we didn't have any transparent pixels in that image. Hit OK. And you should be getting used to this now. This is the third time. Select all, edit, copy. Now we closed our sheet down before, so I'll open another one. Go to my templates. Should we have a portrait one this time? A4 portrait. There we go. No need to do a new layer because we're not going to get a background beneath it. All we need to do is go Effects, Fill, from clipboard. And there we go. Now obviously the more you go towards the edge with removing the white from that initial picture, the more you'll lose it here. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see. I hope you would agree that's not a bad look. I shall click OK on that. I'll zoom in a bit so you can see. How to embarrass someone on their birthday. Right, so that's the third way of making backing papers. There is another way which I'm going to deal with later in the course, but I think those three ways of doing it, so you've got the one in straight rows, you've got the one in offset rows like this one is but with a transparent background, and you've got this one where the image didn't have a transparent background. We'll just say some of that white is actually the sky, so on other images you won't get as much white. Right, final part of this week's lesson is we're going to have a quick look at something called anti-aliasing. I'm not going to make a huge deal of it, but it is something which people hear in relation to graphics, and it's quite important, but it's easy just to use the default, but I want to point out to you what it is, so if you see it mentioned you'll be aware. Right, some of you who have had a good look around the program may have noticed two buttons at the top, this one and this one. Now they appear in some things and not others. In fact, they do appear in most of the tools you select, and they're both labelled anti-aliasing. Now, to be very honest, I rarely bother about them. I leave anti-aliasing enabled and forget about it. But it is sort of important to know what it is. Normally, it's only referred to when someone says, oh, that picture doesn't look very good, and I say, oh whoops, I switched anti-aliasing off. So what is anti-aliasing? Let me zoom in to this image because it's more noticeable the closer you get, and I'm actually on the brush tool at the moment. I'll make sure I'm working somewhere you can see. Now let me draw a line, and we've got anti-aliasing on. There we go. Now let me draw another line, and I'm going to turn anti-aliasing off. Now I hope immediately, even on video, you can see a difference here. I'm going to zoom in even more. Now this one has this sort of faded edge to it, which when you zoom out makes it look very smooth. This one doesn't. On this one, the pixels you cover are either painted in or not painted in, and looks a lot more jagged. So we've got smooth, we've got jagged. Less noticeable when you zoom out, but it is there. And it's not just in the paint tool where you do it. I shall nip to the shape tool and do a circle. Now you can see on this one I've got anti-aliasing off. Now if I do that again, I'll do it in a different colour so you can see the difference. I will turn anti-aliasing back on, and you can see, I hope you can see, that's a much smoother finish, but it's because it adds these semi-transparent faded edges, whereas this one is completely jagged. Now not only does it happen when you create an item or draw an item or a shape, it also happens when you're deleting stuff. Now sometimes you're going to see two anti-aliasing tools at the top. The one on the left applies to items you're making, like lines, circles, squares, etc. The one on the right is going to apply when you're cutting stuff using selection tools. So that's two separate tools, one for drawing an item and one when you're cutting a section away. So I'll go to my selection tool, and I'm going to take anti-aliasing off for that. I shall make a selection there. Now I will delete that, and you can see it's got the jagged edge to it. Let's go over to this shape. I will do exactly the same thing, but this time I will put anti-aliasing on and delete it, and this time you can see it's got those faded pixels, giving it a much smoother look. Let me move that across. So that's basically what anti-aliasing does. It makes a cut or a drawn line look smoother. As I say, I tend to leave it on all the time and rarely switch it off. But if anyone mentions anti-aliasing to you, you now know what it means. Right, a slight amendum, if that's the right word, to this week's video. I wanted to tell you a bit about a piece of strange behaviour by Paint.net. I'm not sure if it's done on purpose or not, but I'm going to make you aware of it, because it does have the potential of messing up a bit of your work. Now it only affects creating a new image by pasting. So if I were to copy part of this image and paste it as a new image, this issue would arise. I'm actually not going to select part of the image, I'm going to demonstrate with the whole image so you can see exactly what the issue is. Now look down on the right hand side and you will see the size. Excuse my bad drawing here, but there's the size of this image. It's 9.43 6.3. That's in inches. I've set this in inches. Okay, coming out, I will edit, select all, edit, copy, and now I'm going to paste that as a new image. Edit, paste into new image. And now if we look, I've pasted exactly the same image. Now if we look, it seems that the size of the image has changed, because it's now saying 14.74 9.84. I can assure you the size of the image hasn't changed. All that has happened is when you do this, creating a new image, Paint.net sets it to a default resolution. So all I need to do is go to a image, resize. The initial image was in 150 pixels per inch. It's gone to 96. So if I put it back to 150, now the size has gone back to what it should be. So it's not that it's changing the size of the image, it's changing the resolution, but that would affect the print size. So this only happens when you're creating a new image. If you're pasting into an existing image, that's fine. But if you're pasting to create a new image, it will change the resolution back to its default of 96. And the first thing you should do, if you want it in 150, is go and change it back to 150. Okay, that's the end of this week's lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it. There is plenty of information with this video on the web page. There is plenty of information in the accompanying PDF. Thank you very much. Alright, bye.